I think his stance is that marriage is something fixed, and that people throughout the years have made it relative. So he thinks it's absolute. Marriage is only one thing, and Joe Rogan is saying no, but everyone might interpret it differently. And he's saying, yeah, but if you make it, if it's not obsolete, it's relative. Everyone can decide for themselves what the definition of marriage is. Then what's the point of having something called marriage? So it's not necessary. I don't know if you understand what I want to say.
I'll be honest, I was typing something else, but I, can you summarize it in one sentence?
So I think Joe Rogan is speaking from a relative point of view. He's saying that everyone can determine for themselves what marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's stating that marriage is absolute. So marriage is what it is. There's only one
Overarching.
thing that is marriage.
Yeah,
And
that's
you're
what he's trying
either,
to say.
yeah. And I think that's the discussion that's being, that they're having right now.
And also, if you want, I think that's the last part he added to it is, if you want to change what it actually means, please tell me what it actually is.
Yeah. Thereby trying to make it something absolute as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
if this is called a remote, then it's called a remote. And what does a remote do? It controls something. If you want to call it, if you want to say that a remote doesn't necessarily need to control something, then what does it do? And if you can tell me what it does and what it is, what's the point of having something called a remote if everyone can determine for themselves what it is? So it's basically the same, in line with what what his documentary seems to be about.
Yeah. Let's continue.
And any definition offered, it's like, well, what's even the point then? Why do we even need this now?
Basically, what you just finished up
Yeah.
with.
I just don't see how a gay marriage in any way damages a straight marriage. I don't see it at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. It just seems to me that people want to be look, if you wanted to look at logic, especially in our modern society, which is pretty fucked when it comes to relationships, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% of all marriages end in divorce anyway. They don't make it. You know, I don't know if anything would damage marriage and damage the institution of marriage is the option of divorce. I don't think gay people getting married in any way, shape, or form changes a bond that you have with your wife. It's just called marriage. It's a human invented thing. If we decide that gay people can get married too, I just don't see how it damages anything. I don't think it tears down the definition of marriage in any way. It just opens up the possibility that people who are gay won't be discriminated against.
There you go again. The personal aspect of the word marriage, the concept of marriage.
Yep.
So if marriage is, and I understand Joe Rogan's standpoint of view as well, if marriage is an expression of love, for example, or of commitment, then why shouldn't gay people be able to marry each other as well, is what Joe Rogan is saying. And he's saying no, but if it's just an expression and it has nothing to do with what he believes should be the meaning, which is primarily
To create a family
for
with kids.
procreation, then what's the point? So then they're having two discussions.
It's totally they're talking about totally
Yeah.
different things.
But that's a conversation.
That's a conversation.
When you have two opposing point of views and they are so,
You have to align first.
yeah. So you need to, first of all, and that's what I've learned, KR, first of all, we need to, before we, especially if we're going to talk about something that's very controversial or very ticklish or something that's going to be very complex, then we should establish some ground rules. What are we talking about? So when
No,
we
I do.
say,
I'm laughing because I do agree with you. That's how
Yeah.
that's how you win arguments as well. But okay, let's continue.
yeah, win arguments, but also understand. So if when I say, for example, a man, I'm thinking of a biological man, irrespective of whether or not he transformed his, so he underwent surgery to appear as a woman, or and the other person thinks, or perhaps you think, when you say a man, you think either a biological man or someone who was a biological woman but then turned into a man. Then if we say man, we're talking about two different things.
Yep.
So we're going to talk an argument, or argue our point of views, but we're basically having two different conversations.
Yep.
Let's see if they can reach the common ground of at least talking about the same things.
Yeah. One thing again, I think it's a great discussion, and I think you're on point on this one. But one thing I
On this
think
one, I'm on point. The other ones, I wasn't.
I know the whole point so far. So.
Right. I'm just
Don't
kidding.
try,
man.
don't try to do me. Don't try to do me like I did you last week.
Right,
I don't use they, so I don't use they
Yeah.
that often. I'm
Yeah.
very conscious about how I use words.
right.
But one thing I think is remarkable. It's very good how this discussion is going so far, because they are asking questions and they are answering questions. It's not about trying to. He's not trying to say, "Oh, you think totally differently. Get off my show." I'm not. You disagree with this idea. It's preposterous that you're thinking this way. It's just asking questions and try to find what are we actually arguing about.
Yeah.
And trying to find, it doesn't have to be a solution, but there has to be understanding. And I think the difference in what they both are talking about is going to make it hard, or maybe easier. We'll look at it later in the video. But those things, those discussions will trigger new ideas, or kill ideas that don't make any sense.